Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of theme 2, that is writing and city life. The topics that we'll study today are significance of urbanism in Mesopotamia and movement of goods in cities. After the end of this video lesson, you would be able to tell about the significance of urbanism and the movement of goods into cities. Let's talk about the earliest cities. The earliest cities in Mesopotamia date back to the Bronze Age. That is circa 3000 BCE. So approximately 3000 BCE, we consider the emergence of the earliest cities in Mesopotamia. Bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. Using bronze meant procuring these metals often from great distances. So from great distances, these metals were procured, and bronze was quite useful for different tools, utensils. Metal tools were necessary for accurate carpentry, for the carpentry work, for the woodwork, drilling beads. To drill the beads also, metal tools were required. Carving stone seals. To give shape to stone seals, metals were essential, and cutting shell for inlaid furniture. So for all these, metal tools were necessary, and bronze played an important role because of its strength. Mesopotamian weapons were also of bronze. For examples, the tips of the spears that you see in the illustration are the spears. Now let's talk about urbanization. Mesopotamian civilization was based on definite plan, fixed plan. Cities and towns are developed when economy develops in spheres other than food production, that it becomes an advantage for people to cluster in towns. So this is something which is quite common, that cities and towns are developed with the development of economy, and eventually people cluster in towns. Urban economies comprise, besides food production, trade, manufactures, and service. So we can clearly get an idea that within an urban economy, we have food production, trade, manufacturers, services, and there is social organization in place. Automatically, a social organization comes in place, and it becomes helpful for the city manufacturers. And the division of labor is a mark of urban life. So urban life simply categorizes the division of labor, who will do what. Now let's talk about the significance of urbanization in Mesopotamia. Urbanism in Mesopotamia had great importance, great significance. Urban centers involved in various economic activities. They were involved in food production, trade, manufactures, as well as services. And thus, the people living in the cities ceased to be self-sufficient. They were not self-sufficient, not self-dependent. They depend on the products or services of other people. So it was a continuous interaction among them. Somebody producing clothes, somebody producing food, and eventually the trade, the business with the interaction among them existed. For instance, the carver of a stone seal requires bronze tools that he himself cannot make, and colored stones for the seals that he does not know where to get. He depends on others for his needs. The division of labor is a mark of urban life, very importantly. So there was division of labor in the urban society. Everyone was dependent on other for their for the fulfillment of their needs. If somebody, like this example, if somebody is a carver of a stone seal, required bronze tools which they did not produce, so they had to depend on the tool makers for their work. And further, for color stones for the seals, they had to depend on others to get the supply of colored stones. And thus we see that there was clear division of labor, which was a mark, which was a symbol of urban life. Next thing, and the next point is social organization in cities. Cities carried social organization, fuel, metal, various stones, wood, etc. come from many different places for city manufacturers. Thus, organized trade, storage, deliveries of grain and other food items from the village to the city were controlled and supervised by the rulers. So the products were supervised finally by the rulers, and thus it was a complete social organization with the presence of division of labor. Now here we discuss about one of the important source, the Warka head. The Warka head, this woman's head, was sculpted in white marble at Uruk, you remember the place, the city, before 3000 BCE. When it was observed and it was dated, it was found that the sculpture, this head, was made of marble and was made before 3000 BCE. The eyes and eyebrows would probably have taken lapis lazuli, that's a stone, blue stone, and shell, white, and bitumen, black inlays, respectively. So we can see here the combination of different stones that had been used. There is a groove along the top of the head, perhaps for an ornament. So if you see here, so there is a groove that is for the ornament, right? Like that women wear this at this part on the head, right? There is a world famous piece of sculpture. This is a world famous piece of sculpture admired for the delicate modeling of the woman's mouth. It was and finely sculpted with woman's mouth, chin, and cheeks. You can see mouth, chin, and cheeks. And it was modeled in a hard stone that would have been imported from a distance. So that shows the trade, the extent of trade. Beginning with the procurement of a stone, list all the specialists who would be involved in the production of such a piece of sculpture. So we can simply list down who all would have been involved. One any which ways, sculptor who carved the stone, and the stone provider or stone seller, and the groove maker. Other than this, we can have the traders involved in it, trading, the businessmen, the merchants. So all were involved in the process of production. Thus, from the source, we clearly find that there had been movement of goods, trade. So let's talk about it. Movement of goods into cities and communication. Mesopotamia was rich in food resources. Mostly, the main occupation was agriculture, but its mineral resources were few. Mesopotamia was not rich in mineral resources. Most parts of South lacked stones for tools, seals, and jewels, the wood for carts, cartwheels, or boats, and there was no metal for tools, vessels, or ornaments. So we got a clear idea that Mesopotamia, rich in food resources but dependent on trade for jewels, for wood, for stones and the ornaments. So Mesopotamians could have traded their abundant textiles. So as textile industry is an agro-based industry, means agriculture-based industry, they traded their abundant textiles and agricultural produce for wood, copper, tin, silver, gold, shell, and various stones from Turkey and Iran or across the Gulf. So they traded with their abundant textiles and agricultural produce. So it was a flourished trade with Turkey, Iran, and other places across Gulf. Regular exchange was possible only when there was a social organization to equip foreign expeditions and exchanges of goods. So we clearly understand, as we discussed on the previous slide, that there was presence of social organization. And like we discussed, that rulers control it. And then only foreign trade, foreign expeditions, long journey, foreign trips, and exchanges of goods were possible. Besides crafts, apart from crafts, trade, and services, efficient transport is also important for urban development. The other things which are important for urban development includes crafts, trade, and services, and undoubtedly efficient transport. To carry grain into cities, pack animals were used. The cheapest mode of transportation is over water. Water, I mean, through sails, through ships, through boats, goods were transported, and that was the cheapest mode. Riverboats or barges loaded with sacks of grain are propelled by the current of the river. The canals and natural channels of ancient Mesopotamia were in fact routes of goods transport between large and small settlements wherever people live, right? So the transportation was mainly over water. Now let's understand the movement of goods into cities through this flowchart and the mind map. Movement of goods, as we already discussed, there was abundance of food resources, agriculture based Mesopotamian civilization, and it lacked minerals, lack of tools or jewels, and the minerals, these products were imported, and the agricultural products, textiles, were exported. There was importance of the Euphrates as a world route. Thereafter, there had been development of writing to keep the records, and then tablets will discuss extensively further, written around 3200 BCE. And these tablets played an important role to keep records of transactions. Writing named in cuneiform, that is the way of writing, that we'll discuss further. Now we have the assignments. The two questions are based on the video lesson. Watch it properly. Everything is mentioned in the video lesson as notes. So write down the answer following the writing guidelines. Thank you.